It's too late. We've blown it. The economy itself cannot be recovered. You see rare things when you're at a market top. It's a transition. Everybody is going from wild optimism, exuberance, irrational greed, to reality. It's not that the mud's hitting the fan. The mud's already hit the fan. Nobody was looking at it. Hello, my friends. We're going to talk today about Iran and a potential strike on their nuclear facilities. We're going to talk about aliens. We're going to talk about these historically, ridiculously overvalued stock markets and how this bubble is about to pop. We're going to talk also about gold and silver mining companies, what you need to know for your benefit going forward. Gold and silver both took a little bit of a hit over the last couple of weeks. From time to time, some days they took a big $50 per ounce hit for gold, for example. And people panic and they worry. They say, oh my gosh, we should have sold. Did we miss the boat? The play here, the philosophy, is that the value of the dollar is going to be declining because they're producing too much of it. They're making it too available, so therefore each dollar has less value. You can buy less and less and less, which has been the case since about 1920. But as this dollar continues to decline in value and in terms of the desire for people to own the dollar, other countries, they don't want to own as much of the American dollar now. And as that continues to play out, as it will, same reason that you're seeing such strength in Bitcoin, for example, too. As the dollars become worth less, it takes more dollars to buy anything. So one of my subscribers, has reached out to me and was asking about two of the really tiny gold and silver mining companies in the Golden Triangle in Canada that we're talking about, which Eric Sprott is also involved with, which is a huge stamp of confidence. But in his email, he was asking, or actually mentioning, did you know that Palantir, stock you picked 2.5 years ago, is now over $80? That's a stock that's gone up 11 times in value. It's an 11 bagger from 2.5 years ago. You put in a few $100, you take it a few thousand. And what I said in my reply was, these silver and gold mining companies that you're talking about will do even better than Palantir did. That was an 11 bagger. We can top that with some of these stocks that we talk about, the Peter Leeds approved gold and silver mining companies. This move is just getting started. If you got in on the gold trade, you've seen $1,000 per ounce of gold in terms of when we started talking about it until now. After a long time of being unloved, gold is finally starting to wake up. And you're seeing this possibly caused by the rampant buying that China is doing in preparation for their new reserve world currency that's backed by gold. And I did an entire video about that you guys need to see if you haven't seen it yet. This move is just getting started. The entire world is now going through a transition, a recognition that the US dollar is not what it used to be. It doesn't have the same cachet, it doesn't have the same value. And other countries are realizing this, and the whole world's realizing that we're taking advantage of having the reserve currency. We're just printing more and more of it. We're just taking on debt or creating new money to pay for all the stuff that we're spending it on or buying. It's absolutely unhealthy, and it is a Ponzi scheme. The entire economy itself cannot sustain like this. It's not a question at all. 100% probability. We're going to get a point that all these problems we're having fiscally are going to come back and bite us on the butt. You can't keep on taking on new debt and taking on new debt and taking on new debt until you explode. But apparently that's what we're going for. How do you think this is all going to end? And I tell you all the time that you can always tell when you're at a market top or market bottom by the expansion of the volatility. When you see the stock market drop 1,000 points in a day, go up 800 points in a day, drop 500 points, go up 400 points. That's extreme volatility. Typically, you want the markets to go up 150, down 150. But what we're seeing now is this widening of all the volatility, which is signaling that there's indecision among investors. Things are going to change. Everyone is looking one way, and they're going to start looking the other way. So which way are they looking? They're all looking optimistically. The investor sentiment is so positive right now. It's almost frightening. It's alarming. It's like being this deep into winter and there's still not snow on the ground. So it stands to reason that as we start focusing the other way, if people's philosophy shifts or changes, everything's going to be coming the other way, going down the other way. It's all going up, going up, going up. Everyone's saying that it's all going to go to the moon. And then when you get there together and you look around and everybody that's going to buy has bought, and you look at each other, then you're Wile E. Coyote about to fall off the cliff. It's at market transitions like this. You also see things like 10 straight days of down days on the Dow Jones Industrial Average, which has not happened ever until last time it happened, I was 1 year old. That's how rare it is. You see rare things when you're at a market top. It's a transition. Everybody is going from wild optimism, exuberance, irrational greed, to reality. And when that happens, people will commit suicide, domestic abuse will increase, people will go bankrupt, people will go broke, they'll lose their lives, they'll have to sell their house. We're on the cusp of paying the piper for all of this asinine, ridiculous setup economically that we've led and enjoyed up to this point. Everything is going to change. You need to be ready. If you don't get ready or understand how this is going to happen, you're not going to land on your feet. A lot of people are going to get wiped out by this. They're not going to see it coming. They're going to be completely blindsided. They're going to be totally surprised. Regardless of the fact that I've been talking about this and talking about it at the top of my lungs for over a decade now. Even published articles in the media, you can read what I said about the problems with the debt that was decades ago. It was clear then that this will explode until it changes. And since then, it's only grown and grown and grown. It's too late. We've blown it. The economy itself cannot be recovered. That's why we have multiple trillions of dollars of debts and trillions of dollars in carrying costs just for our debt. It's gotten so much worse since I started talking about it 2 decades ago. It will get worse from here. And we're so close to it being at the point where it's so bad that it cannot get worse. And that's when all the mud suddenly hits the fan. It's not that the mud's hitting the fan. The mud's already hit the fan. Nobody was looking at it. Now we're going to start noticing, oh my gosh, the fan's on, and it's covered in mud. It's spraying mud all over the room. When you look at historical precedents, such as, the price-earnings ratio for an easy one. In fact, in terms of all historical precedents, when you look at things, stocks are heavily overbought, heavily overvalued on balance, on average right now. No question. Look at things like the Q ratios. Basically, I'll simplify it. It's comparing the book value of all companies to their value on the stock market. Anytime that gets above 1.0, that ratio, there's always a massive stock market down move in the coming years, which we're absolutely due by several years in my opinion, but I'm always early. But another one I look at is investor sentiment, and it's a contrarian indicator. If everybody and their grandma thinks the stock market's going higher, it's coming down lower because they've all acted on their beliefs. They've already all bought, drove up prices to their maximum peak valuation. And that's where we are right now, just sitting there waiting for the drop. Almost like a roller coaster when you get pulled up the hill to the top of the roller coaster and you're about to go over. That's the situation that I believe we are in. I understand that the powers that be can manipulate this market. They can do things. They can produce more money. They can change tax laws. They can affect things. They can continually artificially control this market. And I always tell you, anything artificial is temporary. So all these influences are putting onto the market to make sure it doesn't crash. It will make the market not crash for a while. How long? It's not unlimited. It eventually happens. There's a time limit here. You're not just playing it out till your last day. This stock market needs to get into a more realistic position, which means lower prices across the board for almost everything except for certain stocks, such as the ones we talk about in the Peter Leeds newsletter. They'll do good during this recession, during this downdraft, but most people are starting to understand what I've been saying for all this time. You know that we are on the edge of something negative, and that everybody is got rose-colored glasses on. They're seeing what they want to see. They're all expecting that this economy, that an economy can even do what we're doing right now. It cannot. It's impossible. We've got unnatural long life. We've temporarily controlled things. It's just going to make it worse when the mud hits the fan, when everyone has to pay for the setup that we've made here. There's a very, very weak economy beneath the stock market indicators and the economic indicators. Very weak. But no one knows it because the politicians, in their best interest, they'll tell you this economy is so strong because it's better for them. But that doesn't mean the economy is strong. It just means that you were told the economy is strong by them, which is better for them, and then you were told that information. It doesn't make it right. You can tell whether or not an economy is strong based on things like debt loads, delinquencies, defaults, unemployment, and about 26 other things. So anybody who knows what to look at, you can clearly see this economy is absolutely weak. And at the same time, when you've got this stock market at hyper valuations, wait until it's going to have to pay the piper. It's just floating there at extreme, unprecedented, unjustifiable levels. And at the same moment, we've got so many moving parts that are absolutely meaningful and pivotal. And just a heads up, and you didn't believe me, a lot of people didn't believe me when I said on October 8th, Israel will invade Lebanon. No one believed me. No one believed me because it seemed like such a jump. And now everyone's not understanding that logically, Israel should make a move on Iran's nuclear programs now. Now is the time. For so many reasons, anybody watching this knows this is true. And Israel is setting up to do it, and they can do it on their own, or they can do it with the blessing of America, which they'll probably get, who knows. But don't think that this is not a likely thing to happen. This is the moment where Israel is already setting up. They know what they're going to do. They're going to strike and be done with having to worry about Iran's nuclear program. This will happen, and it's going to have such meaningful ramifications. Prices of oil, prices of gold, conflicts in the world, the way that neighbors talk to each other. Everything's going to change as soon as Israel does what they're about to do. When are they going to do it? I do not know. Are they going to do it? I believe very likely that they're going to do it pretty significantly, pretty surprisingly, relatively soon, in my opinion. And meanwhile, the other major thing besides artificial intelligence and 3D printing and yada yada, the other thing that's really changing all of our lives is that there's a recognition now that aliens are real and that they are here now. And people say, well, that's ridiculous. You need to learn and understand that they are here. So now, what does it mean for everything to do with your life and the economy? This is a meaningful thing. What does it mean, the fact that there are aliens here constantly, almost every day, ships being filmed? This matters. There's a time when people thought the world was flat. We learned that it wasn't. It's better. This time we didn't think that aliens were real. We're learning. And the government is actually controlling all the optics of this. They're going to be revealing the existence of aliens, but they're not just going to do it in a big ripping off the Band-Aid one motion. They're going to keep feeding things into society. They just recently allowed the footage of the alien ships that the U.S. Navy pilots were taking. They've let that become public. Just feeding little seeds, just dropping little seeds every once in a while. Here's a little bit more about aliens. Here's a little bit more about aliens. 2 years from now, it'll just be a known thing, and then society will be based on the fact that aliens are real and around us. And what does that mean? There's so many advancements that our society is going to be making over this 5-year period right now that it's unbelievable. With artificial intelligence, robotics, new technologies, what a beautiful time to be alive in the world. I could listen right now to any song from anybody that I want for no cost. It's pretty cool. So the point of all this video is that things are crazy now. I think that you should double down what I told you before, is just sort of, for the next couple of weeks or month, just sort of sit back and think. Be okay with the silence. There's a value in silence. Don't do anything. Because things are flying all over the place right now. They're going up extremely. They're coming down extremely. Bitcoin's going nuts. It breaks 100,000. People go crazy. It's up to 108,000. Drops down to 95,000. Some people bought and lost $15,000 in the last couple of days on Bitcoin. But in this period of time where things are so crazy, you're going to want to be in direct contact with me, which you can do by becoming an insider, peterleeds.com/insiders. That means you email me anytime you want, ask me a question, whatever you want, and you get an extra special exclusive newsletter just for insiders. Everybody else, you're going to want to join the Peter Leeds world famous stock pick newsletter. These are really small, highly analyzed companies which pass 29-point leads analysis. Well, technically, time itself that no one ever passes 29-point leads analysis, but they come closer, and that's how they make it into our newsletter. The Peter Leeds newsletter is one of the most popular financial publications of all time. And somebody didn't believe me when I said that a couple of months ago, whatever. It's an absolute fact based on the numbers of people who bought it because they like it. And people who subscribe to the Peter Leeds newsletter often stay subscribers for many, many years. And a lot of them get a lifetime subscription and stay a subscriber for the rest of time as long as they and I are alive. Something nice to shoot for.